Guten Morgen.
Let us begin with prayer.
Lass uns mit einem Gebet anfangen.
Dear Heavenly Father,
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
Lord, thank you for this new day.
Herr, danke für diesen neuen Tag.
And thank you that you watch over us, Lord, more than many sparrows.
Und danke, dass du über uns wachst, Herr, mehr als über alle Spatzen.
And thank you that we can now come before you and open your word.
Und danke, dass wir jetzt vor dich kommen dürfen, um dein Wort zu öffnen.
I ask and pray that you would open our ears and eyes that we may receive the things that you have for us.
Und ich bete, Herr, dass du unsere Augen und Ohren öffnest, dass wir das erhalten, was du für uns bereit hast.
Please bless my brother Lawrence as he lays out your word.
Bitte segne meinen Bruder Lorenz, wenn er dein Wort auslegt.
And please also bless the translation.
Bitte segne auch die Übersetzung.
And bless us here, Lord,
Segne uns auch hier
and all who are watching.
und all diejenigen, die zuschauen.
And we invite your presence.
Wir laden deine Gegenwart ein
And ask and pray that your word would sanctify our evil hearts.
und bitten und beten, dass dein Wort unsere bösen Herzen heiligen möge.
And we ask and pray in Jesus' name.
Wir bitten und beten in Jesu Namen.
Amen.
Amen.
Okay, so good morning.
Guten Morgen.
And this morning we want to look at again these prophets where we mark them. Okay,
Heute Morgen wollen wir uns wieder diese Propheten anschauen, wo wir sie markieren.
I thought just going through the story of Joseph once more.
Und
Okay.
ich dachte, nochmal durch die Geschichte von Josef durchzugehen,
Because I wonder if this has a foundation for this evening study then.
weil ich möchte das als Fundament legen für das heutige Abendstudium.
Okay, so let's turn therefore in our Bibles to Genesis chapter 39.
Gehen wir deswegen in unseren Bibeln zu 1. Mose 39.
And beginning in verse 1,
Wir fangen in Vers 1 an.
and we want to read down to verse 4.
Und wir wollen bis Vers 4 lesen.
It says, And Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, bought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that the Lord was with him, and that the Lord made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had he put into his hand. Okay, so what is it that we can see here?
Und das können wir hier sehen.
What ended and what began for
Was?
Joseph?
Hat für Josef geendet und was hat angefangen?
Captivity and being lifted up.
Yes, exactly. Okay, so the time of trouble ended and the time of peace began, right?
Also die Gefangenschaft hat geendet und jetzt wird er erhöht und deswegen die Zeit der Trübsal hat geendet, jetzt hat die Zeit des Friedens angefangen.
Okay, because Potiphar, he bought him, right?
Weil Potiphar hat ihn erkauft.
Out of this slavery of the Ishmaelites.
Aus dieser Knechtschaft der Ismaeliter.
And he then set him over all his goods. Right?
Und dann hat er ihn über alle seine Güter gesetzt.
Okay, just keep your finger here.
Haltet euren Finger hier
Let's go to 1 Peter chapter 1.
und geht zu 1. Petrus 1.
And verse 18 to 19.
In Vers 18 bis 19.
It says, For as much as ye know that ye were not redeemed with corruptible things as silver and gold from your vain conversation received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ as a lamb without blemish and without spot. Okay, it doesn't say here bought, but here it says you're redeemed, right?
Also hier sagt es nicht erkauft, hier sagt es, man ist erlöst worden.
But just go then to 2 Corinthians
Okay.
chapter 6.
Zu 2. Korinther 6.
First Corinthians 6. So.
Gehen wir zu 1. Korinther 6
And verse 19 to 20.
und Vers 19 bis 20.
Says, what? Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, which ye have of God, and ye are not your own? For ye are bought with a price, therefore glorify God in your body and in your spirit, which are God's. So here we can see we are bought.
Hier können wir also sehen, wir sind erkauft
Bought by the blood of Christ.
durch das Blut Christi.
Okay, so let us turn back to Genesis 39.
Gehen wir zurück zu 1. Mose 39.
So Joseph, he's now bought by Christ because Potiphar in this illustration then plays the role of Christ. Right?
Josef wird also durch Christus erkauft, weil Potiphar in dieser Darstellung spielt die Rolle von Christus.
So he redeems him
Er erlöst ihn
and he lifts him up.
und er erhöht ihn.
And that would mark the beginning of a time of peace.
Und das würde den Anfang einer Zeit des Friedens markieren.
Okay. So, and he then began to serve him, right? It says.
Dann sagt es, er hat angefangen, ihm zu dienen.
Okay, so just keep your finger here. Let's go to Romans chapter 6.
Haltet euren Finger hier, gehen wir zu Römer 6.
Verse 16
Vers 16
and also verse 18.
und auch Vers 18.
It says, know ye not that to whom ye yield yourselves servants to obey, his servants ye are to whom ye obey, whether of sin unto death or of obedience unto righteousness. Verse 18,
Vers 18.
being then made free from sin, ye became the servants of righteousness. So how many different servants are there?
Wie viele verschiedene Diener gibt es?
Two, right?
2.
So Joseph, therefore, when he served now Potiphar, he served now Christ. Okay.
Und Josef, wenn er Potiphar dient, dient er Christus.
Okay. So let us go back to Genesis 39.
Gehen wir zurück zu 1. Mose 39.
And so I think we all can then agree that this marks the beginning of a time of peace, right? Where he's lifted up, serves Christ, he's set free.
Wir können also mit übereinstimmen, dass es einen Anfang der Zeit des Friedens markiert, wo er jetzt freigesetzt wird und er dient Christus und wird erhöht.
Okay, and then verse 5.
Und Vers 5.
And it came to pass from the time that he made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that the Lord blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of the Lord was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. So it's now the time of plenty, right?
Das ist jetzt die Zeit der Fülle.
Okay, and then verse 6.
Vers 6.
And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not aught he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person, and well favoured. And it came to pass after these things, that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, lie with me. Okay, so therefore after time passes, now this woman tries to deceive him, right?
Und nachdem die Zeit vergeht, versucht jetzt diese Frau, ihn zu verführen.
Okay, and obviously we know that this woman is the well-known woman of Proverbs 7, right?
Wir wissen, dass diese Frau hier die wohlbekannte Frau von Sprüche 7 ist.
So just keep your finger here.
Haltet euren Finger
Let's
hier.
go to Proverbs 7.
Gehen wir zu Sprüche 7.
Okay, and let's just begin verse 5 here.
Wir fangen in Vers 5 an.
It says, 4 and 5.
Also Verse 4 und 5.
Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger which flattereth with her words. For at the window of my house I looked through my casement, and beheld among the simple ones, I discerned among the youths a young man void of understanding. So what was he?
Was war er?
Yeah, and he was a young man. Okay.
Er war ein junger Mann.
So he was not yet able to discern good and evil. Okay.
Er war noch nicht in der Lage, zwischen Gut und Böse zu unterscheiden.
Passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house. In the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night, and behold, there met him a woman with the attire of an harlot, and subtle of heart. She is loud and stubborn, her feet abide not in her house. Now she is without, now in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner. So she caught him and kissed him, and with an impudent face said unto him, I have peace offerings with me this day, have I paid my vows. Therefore came I forth to meet thee diligently to seek thy face. I found thee. I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, and carved my works with fine linen of Egypt. So it's this Egyptian woman, right?
Das ist also diese ägyptische Frau.
Just like Potiphar's wife.
Genauso wie Potiphas Frau.
I have perfumed my bed with myrrh, aloes and cinnamon. Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with loves. For the good man is not at home, he is gone a long journey. This is when Christ, he gives you the talents and then he leaves, right?
Das, ja, wenn Christus dir die Talente gibt, dann geht er weg.
And he says, I come back, okay.
Und er sagt, ich komme zurück.
But she says, the Lord delayeth his coming, okay.
Aber sie sagt, der Herr verzögert sein Kommen.
He hath taken a bag of money with him and will come at the day appointed. But she says it's still a way off.
Also sie sagt zwar, es ist der bestimmte Tag, aber es ist noch lange bis dahin.
With her much fair speech she caused him to yield, in the flattering of her lips she forced him. He goeth after her straightway as an ox goeth to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks. Till the dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteth to the snare, and knoweth not that it is for his life. Hearken unto me now, therefore, O ye children, and attend the words of my mouth. Let not thine heart decline to her ways, go not astray in her paths. For she hath cast down many wounded, yea, many strong men have been slain by her. Her house is the way to hell, going down to the chambers of death. Okay, so
Strong man that gets slain by her.
exactly.
Also die starken Männer werden, oder Menschen werden von ihr verwundet.
50 strong men.
50 strong men, yes.
Diese 50 starken Männer.
Yes. And I mean, what does Sister White say about Joseph when he wrestled, Jacob when he wrestled with Christ?
Und was sagt er weit über Jakob, als er mit Christus gerungen hat?
He was
Until the end, when Christ touched him and he then was broken,
a weak suppliant.
he became a weak suppliant, but before that, she said, now the strong man was broken or something like this. Okay.
Also sie sagt, als Christus dann ihn berührt hat und er dann schwach geworden ist.
I mean his hip, right, was, and then hip was broken and then he was hanging on to his neck.
Also seine Hüfte wurde gebrochen, dann hat er sich an seinen Nacken geklammert. Da sagt sie, dass jetzt der starke Mann zerbrochen wird.
Strong man refers to all those that trust in their strength, their human strength, right?
Der starke Mann, das bezieht sich auf all diejenigen, die sich in ihre menschliche Kraft vertrauen.
Okay. So, but the point is, let's go back to Genesis 39.
Und gehen wir jetzt zurück zu 1. Mose 39.
So when the woman comes up to you to now tempt you away from God, it's not a time of peace anymore. Yes?
Wenn die Frau jetzt kommt, um dich von Gott weg zu versuchen, dann ist es nicht mehr eine Zeit des Friedens.
That's now the woman, which is, the papacy or this papal doctrine,
Das ist jetzt die Frau und wir wissen, dass es das Papsttum oder die päpstliche Lehre.
that is now coming up, and the woman comes up in a time of trouble, right?
Sie kommt jetzt herauf und die Frau kommt in einer Zeit der Trübsal herauf.
Okay, so yeah, Joseph. Tempted.
Hier wird Josef versucht.
Okay, and if we just go by the pattern,
Wenn wir nur durch das gemäß dem Muster gehen,
I mean, the time of peace brings you to the time of trouble, right? Same principle or pattern you would see here, right?
so eine Zeit des Friedens führt dich dann zu einer Zeit der Trübsal. Und dasselbe Prinzip beim Muster kann man hier sehen.
Okay, in the Millerite time period, this was August 11th, 1840.
In
Yes?
der Millerzeit war das 11. August 1840.
And then the time of trouble came again.
Und
Okay,
dann kam wieder eine Zeit der Trübsal.
April 19th.
19. April.
So, and who left here?
Und wer ist hier weggegangen?
What does this word say?
Was sagt der Wert?
Yes, okay, most, but why did they leave?
Die meisten und weshalb sind sie gegangen?
Because they didn't have their own
Good
faith.
emotions or
Yeah.
fear.
So why it says those that merely came under the influence of the message but did not really fully receive it. Okay?
Also sie sagt, diejenigen sind weggegangen, die zwar unter den Einfluss der Botschaft gekommen sind, aber es nicht wirklich erhalten haben.
Okay. So and therefore then they left here. Okay?
Deswegen sind sie dann hier weggegangen.
But Joseph, he would represent somebody who's not void of understanding like this young man there. Okay?
Aber Josef stellt jemanden dar, der nicht leer von Verständnis ist, wie dieser junge Mann dort.
Because therefore he then passes the test here. Okay?
Deswegen besteht er hier diesen Test.
Because it goes on to say in verse 8,
Es sagt weiter in Vers 8,
but he refused and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There's none greater in his house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? Okay, so he's obviously rejecting her offer by referring to God, right?
er lehnt ihr Angebot ab, weil er eben sich auf Gott bezieht.
And at what position is he according to verse 9?
Und in welcher Position ist er gemäß Vers 9?
Second, right?
Der zweite.
So when Joseph was exalted, he was made second in the household, right?
Also als Josef erhöht wurde, da wurde er zum zweiten im Haushalt gestellt.
In verse 10.
Vers 10.
And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie by her or to be with her. Yeah, so that's this daily experience, right?
Das ist diese tägliche Erfahrung.
Okay, so she spoke daily to him.
Sie hat zu ihm täglich gesprochen.
And where else do we see an illustration of this day-by-day temptation?
Wo noch sehen wir eine Darstellung für diese Tag-für-Tag Versuchung?
Delilah. She did the same to Samson.
Yes, okay.
Day
Yes.
by day, Delilah urged him.
Yes,
Delilah, also sie hat auch Tag für Tag ihn versucht zu drängen.
exactly. Okay.
Mordecai.
Mordecai, right?
Bei
So
Mordecai.
let's go to Esther. Keep your finger here. Esther chapter 3.
Und haltet euren Finger hier, gehen wir zu Esther Kapitel 3.
And this is what we need to understand. This is not only a prophetic illustration, but it's also a principle for our daily life. Okay.
Und wir müssen das verstehen, das ist nicht nur eine prophetische Darstellung, sondern auch ein Prinzip für unser tägliches Leben.
And because sometimes Satan, or not sometimes, many times, he bombards you with the same thought over and over and over again.
Weil
Okay.
sehr oft bombardiert dich Satan mit demselben Gedanken immer und immer wieder.
Must not only be like sexual temptations or so, but can be all kinds of temptations that he constantly puts in your mind. Okay.
Das müssen nicht nur sexuelle Versuchungen sein, sondern einfach alle möglichen Versuchungen, die er beständig in deinen Verstand legt.
But we must refuse just like Joseph. Okay.
Aber wir müssen uns weigern, so wie Josef.
Then the Lord, he will bring again a time period where you have more ease of these thoughts. Okay.
Dann wird der Herr wieder eine Zeitspanne bringen, wo du wo es leichter ist mit den Gedanken.
Okay. So Esther chapter 3, beginning in verse 1.
1. Kapitel 3, und wir fangen in Vers 1 an.
It says, After these things did King Ahasuerus promote Haman, the son of Hammedatha the Agagite, and advanced him and set his seat above all the princes that were with him. So that would be here the second Sunday law, right?
Das wäre hier das zweite Sonntagsgesetz.
And all the king's servants that were in the king's gate bowed and reverenced Haman. For the king had so commanded concerning him, but Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence. So basically, Haman also said to everybody, lie with me. Okay.
Also hat in diesem Sinne auch zu jedem gesagt, legt euch zu mir.
But Mordecai refused just like Joseph.
Aber Mordecai hat sich geweigert, so wie Josef.
Then the king's servants which were in the king's gate said unto Mordecai, Why transgressest thou the king's commandment? Now it came to pass, when they spake daily unto him, and he hearkened not unto them, that they told Haman to see whether Mordecai's matters would stand, for he told them that he was a Jew. So how did they speak unto him?
Wie haben sie zu ihm gesprochen?
Daily.
Täglich.
So daily the temptation was for him, lie with me, right?
Täglich war die Versuchung für ihn, dass wo er gesagt hat, leg dich zu mir.
And this temptation lasted until they delivered him up. Okay.
Und diese Versuchung ging so lange, bis sie ihn ausgeliefert haben.
And then they told Haman in verse 5.
Dann haben sie es Haman gesagt und in Vers 5.
And when Haman saw that Mordecai bowed not, nor did him reverence, then was Haman full of wrath. Okay, so we can see therefore this daily brings you down to this sixth plague when he's delivered up, right?
Wir können also sehen, dieses tägliche bringt uns hinunter bis zur 6. Plage, wenn er ausgeliefert wird.
And then Haman is full of wrath and he wants to destroy the Jews. He makes a death decree, right?
Dann war Haman voll Zorn und dann möchte er die Juden zerstören. Er macht ein Todesdekret.
Okay, so let us go back to Genesis 39.
Gehen wir zurück zu 1. Mose 39.
So here at the beginning you have lie with me.
Hier am Anfang haben wir leg dich zu mir.
And then in verse 11.
Und dann Vers 11.
And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. Okay. So that's also a principle here, right?
Das ist hier auch ein Prinzip.
Yeah, that's whenever you know that there's a tempter for you, don't put yourself knowingly into this situation, okay?
Also immer wenn du weißt, dass da ein Versucher für dich ist, dann setz dich nicht bewusst in diesen Versuchung aus.
Especially when you're alone with this person then somewhere.
Besonders wenn du dann allein mit dieser Person bist.
Okay.
Irgendwo.
So, but Joseph, he was not presumptuous, he was forced into this situation, okay?
Aber Josef war nicht vermessen, er wurde in diese Situation gezwungen.
And therefore God gave him grace, but if he was presumptuously walking in there, what 100% would have been overthrown. Okay.
Deswegen hat der Herr ihm Gnade gegeben, aber wenn er vermessen dahin gegangen wäre, dann wäre er 100% überwunden worden.
Okay, so but the point is, yeah, so this daily went here to the point where he was now alone.
Und der Punkt ist, dieses tägliche führte ihn zu dem Punkt, wo er jetzt allein war.
And what did she again say?
Was hat sie wieder gesagt?
Lie with me.
Leg
Okay.
dich zu mir.
So she said, lie with me when she came up.
Sie
Okay.
hat gesagt, leg dich zu mir, als sie heraufkam.
And then day by day he was tempted,
Tag für Tag wurde er versucht,
like Mordecai, until he was delivered up. Right?
so wie Mordecai, als er ausgeliefert wurde.
And then she again reiterated, lie with me. Okay.
Und jetzt hat sie wieder diese Worte wiederholt, leg dich zu mir.
Okay. So and this would be then these two times when the woman basically comes up. Okay.
Das wären diese zweimal, wenn die Frau heraufkommt.
So because we know the threefold union comes together here,
Weil wir wissen, die dreifältige Union kommt hier zusammen
and the threefold union comes together there.
und
Right?
sie kommt hier zusammen.
Okay. So and that would be at least in principle then this parallel here to this waymark, right?
Und das wäre vom Prinzip her zumindest eine Parallele zu dieser Wegmarke.
Okay. And what must you see here?
Was musst du hier sehen?
The sign, right?
Das Zeichen.
Okay, so let us go now, or before we go, let's read verse 12 one more time.
Bevor wir dahin gehen, lesen wir nochmal Vers 12.
And she caught him by his garment, saying, lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. So he leaves his garment and he flees, right?
Er lässt sein Gewand zurück und er flieht
And gets out.
und geht raus.
So just keep your finger here, let's go to Mark 13,
Haltet euren Finger hier und geht zu Markus 13,
which is the parallel chapter to Matthew 24.
was das Parallelkapitel zu Matthäus 24 ist.
And verse 14
Vers 14.
says, but when ye shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing where it ought not, let him that readeth understand. Then let them that be in Judea flee to the mountains. Okay, so where are we on the line?
Wo sind wir auf der Linie?
Right here, right?
Hier.
Where she says, lie with me.
Wo
Okay.
sie sagt, leg dich zu mir.
And what are you to do
Was sollst du tun,
when you see the sign?
wenn du das Zeichen siehst?
Flee.
Flee,
Du
right?
sollst fliehen.
And then verse 15.
Und jetzt Vers 15.
And let him that is on the housetop not go down into the house, neither enter therein to take anything out of his house. And let him that is in the field not turn back again for to take up his garment. Okay? So, leave your garment and flee, it says.
So
Okay?
lass dein Gewand zurück und fliehe.
And this is exactly what Joseph did. He saw the sign, he refused it to bow down, and he fled and left his garment.
Und
Okay?
das hat genau Josef getan. Er hat das Zeichen gesehen und hat dann sein Gewand zurückgelassen und ist geflohen.
And Sister White, she also, when she takes this point and principally puts it at the Sunday law, so you have it on all three levels there.
Und Ellen White nimmt auch dieses Prinzip und setzt es an das Sonntagsgesetz.
No, go with this side, Lois. No, go, because you've got it at the bottom there.
Okay, yes.
Right.
Okay, so that would be at the Sunday law,
Yeah.
the sixth plague, and also in this
Yeah,
fractal.
yes.
Okay.
Also das wäre am Sonntagsgesetz, an der 6. Plage und auch in diesem Fraktal.
So you must flee at all levels
Must-
when you come there.
Also wenn du da hinkommst, an allen Ebenen fliehen.
Okay. Yes. So he now flees and he's basically by her, made naked by her, right?
Also er flieht und deswegen wird er durch sie im Grunde nackt gemacht.
Because now she took his garment away,
Weil
right?
sie hat jetzt sein Gewand weggenommen.
Okay. And And we know, what does this word say about these dirty garments that Joshua has on?
Und was sagt er denn weiter über die schmutzigen Gewänder, die Josua anhat?
What do they represent?
Was stellen sie da?
Yeah, Satan's accusations. Okay.
Satans Anklagen.
He basically makes you to look naked. Right?
Er macht dich im Grunde so, dass du nackt aussiehst.
Okay. So, verse 13.
Vers 13.
So she takes away basically your righteousness and makes you look like the worst criminal.
Also
Okay.
sie nimmt deine Gerechtigkeit weg und macht dich jetzt zum schlimmsten Verbrecher.
Because that's what she's doing now here in beginning verse 13.
Und das macht sie hier in 1. Mose 39, Vers 13.
And it came to pass when she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and was fled forth, that she called unto the men of her house and spake unto them, saying, See, he hath brought in an Hebrew unto us to mock us. He came in unto me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. So, what would this be?
Was wäre das?
A false midnight cry.
Ein falscher
Okay.
Mitternachtsruf.
So she gives now this counterfeit midnight cry.
Es gibt hier diesen gefälschten Mitternachtsruf.
What did Mordecai do here?
Was hat Mordecai hier getan?
Yeah, he gave a loud and bitter cry,
Er
right?
hat einen lauten und bitteren Ruf gegeben.
So therefore Satan, he counterfeits this here.
Deswegen Satan fälscht das hier.
Okay. And then verse 15.
Vers 15.
And it came to pass when he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled and got him out. And she laid up his garment by her until his Lord came home. And she spake unto him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant which thou hast brought unto us came in unto me to mock me. And it came to pass, as I lifted up my voice and cried, that he left his garment with me and fled out. And it came to pass, when his master heard the words of his wife, which she spake unto him, saying, After this manner did thy servant to me, that his wrath was kindled. Yeah, so when they delivered up Mordecai,
Als sie Mordecai ausgeliefert haben,
what happened to Haman?
was geschah mit Haman?
He was wrath,
Angry.
right?
Er war zornig.
Yes. Okay, he was now full of wrath.
Er war
Okay.
jetzt voller Zorn.
So, and also when the Hebrew boys were brought before Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Und auch als die Hebräer vor Nebukadnezar gebracht wurden.
Okay. And then verse 20.
Vers 20.
And Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, a place where the king's prisoners were bound. And he was there in the prison. So, what had happened to him now?
Was geschah jetzt mit ihm?
Was cast into prison.
Er wurde ins Gefängnis geworfen.
I mean, I'm open that there are even more fractals in here, okay, maybe, but I don't see them clearly at the moment. So, therefore, the prison, where would the prison experience begin in your parallel with here?
Also ich bin offen, dass da noch mehr Fraktale sind, aber ich sehe das noch nicht so klar. Also wo wäre das
Same place.
Gefängnis?
Just
That's
follow,
the
follow
art.
the fractals, I mean, it's
Nice.
so clearly written there.
Okay, so let us go to Luke 21.
Kommen wir zu Lukas 21.
At the top fractal, it's when you're going back into bondage, that's what the prison represents.
Yes.
Then the second one down is where they deliver you up and you're put in prison, and then, which is
Yeah.
a smaller fractal of it here.
Okay, so
Bei dem großen Fraktal, da geht man wieder in die Gefangenschaft, das stellt also das Gefängnis dar und hier wird man ausgeliefert und wird ins Gefängnis geworfen. Also hier in dem unteren Fraktal ist es dasselbe.
so false accusation, right?
Also falsche Anklagen.
And then he cast him into prison because it says here in verse 12.
Weil dann wirft er ihn ins Gefängnis, weil es sagt hier, Lukas 21, Vers 12.
But before all these, they shall lay their hands on you and persecute you, delivering you up to the synagogues and into prisons, being brought before kings and rulers for my name's sake. Yes? Okay, so that's now when you're cast into prison here.
Das ist, wenn du jetzt ins Gefängnis hier geworfen bist.
I mean, that's the one above, but
Yeah,
Yes.
I mean, Joseph was cast into prison.
same principle.
Also das wäre jetzt hier oben, aber Josef, der ist dasselbe Prinzip hier,
Ja.
wird ins
So
Gefängnis
Luke
geworfen.
21 speaks about here, okay?
Also Lukas 21 spricht darüber,
But we see in Joseph's story, he's in this fractal here and he's getting cast then here into prison.
aber in der Geschichte von Josef spricht es über dieses Fraktal und da wird er ins Gefängnis geworfen.
So you can see this principle of Luke 21 you can apply then to Joseph's story.
Man kann also das Prinzip von Lukas 21 auf Josefs Geschichte übertragen.
Okay, so, but when we go now back to Genesis 39,
Wenn wir jetzt aber zurück zu 1. Mose 39 gehen,
and then verse 21 to 23
Vers 21 bis 23,
says, But the Lord was with Joseph and showed him mercy and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. And the keeper of the prison committed to Joseph's hand all the prisoners that were in the prison. And whatsoever they did there, he was the doer of it. The keeper of the prison looked not to anything that was under his hand, because the Lord was with him, and that which he did, the Lord made it to prosper. So what happened to Joseph?
was geschah mit Josef?
He's lifted up again.
He receives mercy, right? So the time of mercy,
Er erhält Gnade, das ist also die Zeit der Gnade,
and he's lifted up again.
und
Okay,
er wird wieder erhöht.
which position?
Zu welcher Position?
Second. Huh?
Zweite.
Okay, so and we know that here's this time of peace, right?
Wir wissen, hier ist diese Zeit des Friedens. Und vielleicht ist das verwirrend, wenn das parallel ist zu dem.
Okay, so and that would be when you go to the bigger fractal. That's here where the first group is lifted up, right?
Und wenn man zum größeren Fraktal hochgeht, da wird die erste Gruppe erhöht.
Okay.
The,
So-
the difference is that this one below it is the first. It's just got the
Yeah,
same
we
pattern.
yes, we can do this. So, yeah, right here, the first group is lifted up. That would be which illustration?
Die erste Gruppe wird hier erhöht, das wäre welche Darstellung?
Or what happens here at this waymark?
Was geschieht an dieser
Midnight, it's the
Wegmarke?
cry.
Yeah, it's a midnight cry, right?
Ein Mitternachtsruf,
It's the destruction of Jerusalem,
die
right?
Zerstörung von Jerusalem.
It's where you're given an understanding in all visions and dreams, because that's what parallels the one.
Yes, exactly.
Da wird dir ein Verständnis von allen Visionen und Träumen gegeben, weil das ist dann parallel zu dem.
Okay, so because we usually take this and put it out like this, right?
Weil wir nehmen normalerweise das hier und setzen es hier
So
unten.
the sixth plague and then the seventh plague.
Die
Right?
6. Plage und die 7. Plage.
So then this here would be here, right?
Also das hier wäre dann hier.
Okay. So, but okay, but here I just want to show this parallel here, okay?
Weil hier möchte ich diese Parallele erzählen.
And
Well, you have to explain it.
yeah, I'll explain now. Yeah. And we need to understand that Joseph's illustration here,
Wir
this here,
müssen verstehen, dass Josefs Darstellung, das hier,
is now this box, okay?
ist jetzt diese Box.
But it follows just the same pattern as in this box, for instance, okay?
Aber dasselbe Muster ist jetzt wie dort in dieser Box.
Okay, so Joseph's experience is here, as we will see, and this box would be this box here, okay?
Also Josefs Erfahrung ist das hier, wie wir sehen werden. Und diese Box hier ist eben die hier.
So it just shows you the first 5 plagues as the same pattern as the 6 and 7.
Yes.
Das sagt dir, die ersten 5 Plagen haben dasselbe Muster wie die 6. und die 7.
Okay, so So he's now here, Joseph is here, okay?
Josef ist jetzt hier.
So he gets again lifted up.
Er wird wieder erhöht.
Second place.
Zum zweiten Platz.
Okay. And as Brother Mark rightly said, when you go now to Daniel chapter 1,
Und wie Bruder Mark richtig gesagt hat, wenn wir zu Daniel 1 gehen,
and let us read verse 12 first.
lass uns zuerst Vers 12 lesen.
It says, "Prove thy servants, I beseech thee, 10 days, and let them give us pulse to eat and water to drink." So where would these 10 days be?
Wo wären diese 10 Tage?
Yeah, right?
In der 6. Platz.
So in principle that would be the same as here, right?
Also vom Prinzip her wäre dasselbe dann auch hier.
Because it says in Revelation chapter 2, the devil will cast you into prison for 10 days,
Ja,
right?
in Offenbarung 2 sagt es, der Teufel wird euch 10 Tage lang ins Gefängnis werfen.
Okay, so Joseph also went through this same test here in principle. Okay.
Josef ist also vom Prinzip her hier durch denselben Test gegangen.
Okay, and then it says in verse 15,
Und dann in Vers 15 sagt es,
"And at the end of 10 days their countenances appeared fairer and fatter in flesh than all the children which did eat the portion of the king's meat. Thus Melzar took away the portion of the meat and the wine that they should drink and gave them pulse." So that would be then at the end here, right?
es wäre dann hier am Ende
When now the sins get blotted out.
und die Sünden ausgetilgt
And
werden.
then verse 17.
Jetzt Vers 17.
"As for these 4 children, God gave them knowledge and skill in all learning and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams." Yes? So what did Daniel obtain here?
Was hat Daniel hier erhalten?
Revelation.
Yeah, all visions and dreams. Okay.
Alle Visionen und Träume.
And here Joseph would have received here the same.
Und
Okay.
hier hat Josef dasselbe erhalten.
Because when we go now back to Genesis 40,
Weil wenn wir jetzt zurück zu 1. Mose 40 gehen,
so here, all visions. Dreams.
alle Visionen und Träume.
Beginning verse 1.
Und wir fangen in Vers 1 an.
And it came to pass after these things that the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker had offended their lord the king of Egypt. And Pharaoh was wroth against 2 of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and they looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his lord's house, saying, Wherefore look ye so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to God? Tell me them, I pray you. Okay, so what happens now?
Was geschieht jetzt?
Who came into the prison also?
Wer kam jetzt auch ins Gefängnis?
2 classes.
Yeah, 2 classes.
2 Klassen.
And they were what kind of people?
Was für Leute waren das?
Gentile.
Yeah, Gentiles. Okay.
Heiden.
Okay. And now Joseph, what did he do unto their dreams?
Was hat jetzt Josef mit ihren Träumen getan?
Interpret.
Yeah, he could interpret it.
Er konnte sie deuten.
It's
Because-
just like the fractal above.
Yeah,
You stand before him.
exactly.
You go to the
Okay.
Gentiles now.
So wie in dem Fraktal hier oben, da gehst du jetzt zu den Heiden.
Yeah, because Daniel after received all visions and dreams, he stood before Nebuchadnezzar, right?
Weil Daniel, nachdem er alle Visionen und Träume erhalten hat, stand vor
And he
Nebukadnezar.
told him what is to come.
Und er hat ihm gesagt, was kommen wird.
Is he also telling them what is to come here?
Sagt er ihnen auch, was kommen wird?
Yes. Okay.
Ja.
He tells them 3 days, okay,
Er sagt ihm 3 Tage
and then you will be hanged
und dann
or restored.
werdet ihr
Okay.
hängt oder wiederhergestellt werden.
Okay, so you've basically, I don't know how to best illustrate this now. Let me just do it like this.
Schreibt
Okay.
das jetzt so hin.
Okay, and then we know the butler got restored.
Wir wissen, dass der Mundschenk wurde wiederhergestellt.
Why have you done it like that, Lawrence? When they get put in prison and then they have the dreams, just illustrating the symbol. Why are you sticking that one above the thing there?
Because Joseph is here, not standing here.
Lawrence, look. Joseph gets put in prison, then there's a time of peace, and then they get thrown into the prison.
Okay, I was only thinking, because the prophets, they stand here.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Remember, we've had this thing. There's the big fractal, and then there's this. You're mixing things up. That three's in that box.
I mean, I get your point. I mean, I was also having this
Well,
dilemma.
you can't put it there. They're not even in prison yet.
I mean,
You just have to follow the thing and let the Lord explain it.
No. I was also asking myself, how can they be thrown in? Into
Yeah,
the
okay,
tunnel?
that's because remember, there's this thing with when you go to, for instance, when you go to the final review there at the top, Christ goes into the wilderness, right,
Mhm.
for 1260.
Yes.
But also the Sunday law.
It's 12:60. Yes.
Yes. So there's this thing, and it's also with this time of peace there. It seems to be like you stand before the king at the beginning and you explain something, but there's it's like it's happening again now when you're in captivity. It's this sort of same pattern, but I don't know how to explain it. But
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, we need to look at this more closely. I get this point. I was also thinking, okay, they're getting cast into prison. That would be no time of trouble for them. Okay.
Soll ich übersetzen?
Yeah, just translate here. You have the 1260 here and the 1260 there on this level.
Also man hat eine 1260 hier und eine 1260 hier auf dieser Ebene.
And the same is also with 3 days. Yeah, you have 3 days from beginning from the time of peace down to the end, or 3 days from the time of trouble down to the end.
Und man hat eben dasselbe auch hier, 3 Tage von Anfang der Zeit des Friedens bis zum Ende und 3 Tage von der Trübsal bis zum Ende.
Not necessarily here, but in print, the pattern, the principle that you can have 3 days beginning from the time of peace and 3 days from beginning from the time of trouble. That's
Also-
what I want to say.
Also nicht notwendigerweise hier, da hat man dasselbe Prinzip, aber es ist eben einfach dieses Muster, 3 Tage von Anfang der Zeit des Friedens und 3 Tage von Anfang der Trübsal.
Just to give an example, okay?
Um ein Beispiel zu geben,
So for instance, when Elijah went up to heaven,
als Elia in den Himmel hinaufgegangen
it
ist,
would mark here a time of peace, right?
würde eine Zeit des Friedens markieren.
Mark here the beginning of the 7th plague, okay?
Für den Anfang der 7. Plage.
So that's the 2 witnesses now ascending up to heaven.
Das sind die 2 Zeugen, die jetzt zum Himmel aufsteigen.
And who came then to Elisha looking for oil?
Und er kam dann zu Elisa, um nach dem Öl zu schauen.
50 strong men.
50 strong men,
Die
right?
50 starken Männer.
Yeah, it's the midnight cry,
Das
right?
ist der Mitternachtsruf.
Yes?
Richtig.
Because they are the foolish virgins, they were looking for oil.
Weil sie sind die törichten Jungfrauen,
They
haben
went
nach
for
Öl
3 days.
gesucht.
And they went for 3 days,
Und
right?
sie haben 3 Tage lang gesucht,
Couldn't find it.
konnten
Okay.
es nicht finden.
But, for instance, in the story of Jonah,
Zum Beispiel in der Geschichte von Jona,
where he passes his test, he gets cast into the sea, right?
er besteht
Time
seinen
of peace.
Test,
Yes.
er wird in das Meer geworfen, das ist eine Zeit des Friedens.
And then the sea ceases, right?
Das hört das Meer auf.
It's a time of peace. But then the whale comes and swallows him up for how many days?
Das ist eine Zeit des Friedens, aber dann kommt der Wal und verschlingt ihn jetzt 3 Tage.
Yeah, 3 days. So time of trouble again.
Dann ist wieder eine Zeit der Trübsal.
So it's just the 3 days is the same illustration as the 1260. You have it from here or you have it here. Okay.
3 Tage ist dieselbe Darstellung wie die 1260. Also man hat das von hier, aber auch von hier.
And there's a point there I lost. Joseph would be somewhere, there's a little line, because Joseph would be somewhere down the end explaining the vision to them.
Und Josef wäre irgendwo dann am Ende, wenn er ihnen die Vision erklärt.
So the 3 days would be at the end, you say.
Yeah, and they're both having these 3 days, and they're at the end. He's now at the end of this point, he's explaining to them, so it's always near the end.
I mean, it might be so, but
He's not at the end, but he just before it, you know.
Also er wäre dann kurz vor dem Ende, wenn er ihnen das erklärt.
yes, I mean, could very well be, but we need to identify exactly where we can find this here in the story, right? I mean,
Das könnte gut sein, aber wir müssen schauen, wo wir das in dieser Geschichte finden.
okay, so anyways, let's just keep it like this for now, and then we can maybe in another study go into greater details when we see it more clearly.
Lass uns das für jetzt so halten und dann können wir, wenn wir in einem tieferen Studium, können wir das vielleicht noch besser sehen.
Okay, but when you just jump down to verse 20,
Wenn ihr zu Vers 20 runterkommt,
that's now after Joseph gave the interpretation.
das
Right?
ist jetzt nachdem Josef die Deutung gegeben hat.
And it says, and it came to pass the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, that he made a feast unto all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief butler and of the chief baker among his servants. And he restored the chief butler unto his butlership again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker, as Joseph had interpreted to them. Okay, so here one gets blessed, the other gets cursed, right?
Der eine wird gesegnet, der andere verflucht.
But they are Egyptians, they are Babylon.
Sie
Okay?
sind Ägypter, sie sind Babylon.
So that would be therefore at the end, right?
Wäre also hier am Ende.
The butler restored,
Mundschenk wird wiederhergestellt,
baker hanged.
der Bäcker wird erhängt.
Okay, so when you take this now, that would be then here, right?
Und wenn ihr das hier jetzt nimmt, dann wäre das hier.
So let me just erase this for now.
Macht das für jetzt weg.
Butler restored
Der Bäcker wird wiederhergestellt.
and baker hanged.
Und der Bäcker wird erhängt.
So this here would be this here,
Also das hier wäre das hier.
and this here would be something in here. Okay.
Und das hier wäre etwas hier drin.
Okay. All right. So let's just now continue.
Lesen wir jetzt weiter.
Verse 23.
Vers 23.
Yet did not the chief butler remember Joseph, but forget him. And it came to pass at the end of 2 full years that Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. So here Joseph did not come out, but he remained for how long in prison still?
Hier kam Josef nicht heraus, sondern wie lange ist er noch im Gefängnis geblieben?
2 years. Right?
2 volle Jahre.
Okay, and we also these 2 years at Sinai, right?
Er macht diese 2 Jahre an Sinai.
Okay. And at the end of 2 full years, what did Pharaoh have?
Und am Ende der 2 vollen Jahre, was hatte Pharao?
Yeah, his birthday. And he has this dream, right?
Geburtstag, und da hatte er diesen Traum.
We're parallel to the birthday of Herod.
Pharaoh.
So.
E-O-E. Pharaoh.
Yes, I just make it as an A. Pharaoh's dream.
Pharaos Traum.
Okay, so here's this dream, and then we know the story, right? That the butler, I mean, all the magicians, they cannot tell, just like in Daniel chapter 2.
Also er hat diesen Traum, und dann ist es, dann kennen wir das ja, all diese Magier und so können das nicht sagen, so wie in Daniel 2.
And then the butler tells Joseph can tell it. Okay.
Und dann sagt der Mundschenk, dass Josef es deuten kann.
And Joseph stands then before Pharaoh, like where Daniel stands before Pharaoh here.
Und
Right?
Josef steht dann genauso wie Daniel hier vor dem Pharao.
Okay. And he tells him.
Er sagt ihm
You
dann,
just go to verse 14 first.
lest zuerst Vers 14.
It says, Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon. And he shaved himself and changed his raiment, and he came in unto Pharaoh. So that's now when he comes out of the prison, right?
Als wenn er jetzt aus dem Gefängnis kommt.
And he comes out hastily and changes his raiment.
Kommt eilig heraus und wechselt sein Gewand.
Okay. And he shaves himself, okay?
Und er rasiert sich.
Okay, that also would be an interesting thought.
Das wäre ein interessanter Gedanke.
Okay, but he now gets this garment changed, right?
Hier wird sein Gewand
I
verändert.
mean, like the Nazarite.
Yeah.
Das wäre wie beim Nazirea.
So, and it says, take away the filthy garments here, right?
Es sagt, nehmt die schmutzigen Gewänder weg.
Good. And then he stands before Pharaoh,
Dann steht er vor dem Pharao,
verse 28.
Vers 28.
This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What God is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, there come 7 years of plenty throughout all the land of Egypt. And then also verse 32.
Nach Vers 32.
For that the dream was doubled unto Pharaoh twice, it is because the thing is established by God, and God will shortly bring it to pass. So what is he telling him?
Was sagt er ihm?
Yeah, sure.
Dinge, die in Kürze geschehen sollen.
He points him, says shortly, right?
Deutet ihn dahin und sagt, in Kürze.
Okay. So, and 7 good years are to come.
7 gute Jahre sollen kommen.
That would be then here,
Das wäre dann hier.
which would be on the bigger fractal there, right?
Und auf dem größeren Fraktal wäre das da.
Okay. So Joseph stands here, okay?
Josef steht also hier.
When he tells Pharaoh,
Wenn er es Pharao sagt,
and he points him to here.
und er weist ihn hier hin.
Which is then 7 years of plenty.
7 Jahre der Fülle.
Okay. So, and then 7 years of famine comes.
Und dann kommen 7 Jahre der Hungersnot.
Okay, so basically what we can see so far
Was wir im Grunde soweit sehen können,
is how the Lord gives us like a detailed illustration of what takes place in here.
dass
Okay.
er uns eine detailreiche Darstellung von dem gibt, was hier drin stattfindet.
How Joseph is raised up to the point that he can now understand all dreams and visions.
Wie
Okay.
Josef dann zu dem Punkt erhöht wird, dass er alle Visionen und Träume verstehen kann.
So first you can look at this fractal just to have all the details, and then you can jump over to this fractal here.
Also zuerst kann man dieses Fraktal anschauen, da sieht man alle Details und dann kann man zu diesem Fraktal hochkommen.
Because this fractal here would bring you down to here, right? Where Butler is hanged and Butler restored and Baker hanged.
Weil dieses Fraktal führt dich dann hierhin, wo der Mundschenk erhöht wird und der Bäcker hängt.
And then on this fractal you continue 2 years in prison until he stands before, until Pharaoh has the dream.
Und diese 2 Jahre wäre er dann weiter im Gefängnis, bis Pharao dann den Traum hat.
Then he's brought before Pharaoh to interpret the dream.
Dann wird er vor den Pharao gebracht, um den Traum zu deuten.
He points to the 7 years of plenty.
Und dann deutet er auf die 7 Jahre der Fülle hin.
So that would be an illustration of here. So Pharaoh has his dream here.
Das wäre eine Darstellung davon. Pharao hat hier seinen Traum.
Joseph stands before Pharaoh, tells him the dream,
Josef steht dann vor dem Pharao und sagt ihm den Traum.
points forward to the 7 years of plenty.
Und dann weist er vorwärts auf die 7 Jahre der Fülle.
which would be followed by 7 years of famine.
Und die würden gefolgt sein von 7 Jahren der Hungersnot.
Yes? So you can see how the story of Joseph is really a rundown of the 2 Sunday laws. Okay.
Also sehen, wie die Geschichte von Josef eine Erzählung von den 2 Sonntagsgesetzen ist.
Okay, then that brought me to the thought that Joseph is bought by Potiphar must be marking the end of the movement.
Mhm.
Und das, hat,
When he gets put in that pit, that's sort of so.
und das hat mich zu dem Gedanken gebracht, wenn Josef gekauft wird, dann markiert es das Ende der Bewegung, weil er wird in diese Grube
And
geworfen.
just before I continue, so, yes, so because you can see Joseph is tempted here, that marks the Sunday law, right?
Man kann sehen, Josef wird hier versucht, das markiert das,
Yeah, the first Sunday.
das erste
So
Sonntagsgesetz.
therefore, when he's bought, it must be before the Sunday law, the
Deswegen,
first Sunday law.
Wenn er gekauft wird, muss das vor dem ersten
And therefore, when
Sonntagsgesetz.
you're thrown in the pit, that's marking a test in time somewhere. I mean, the principle would repeat in those things, but it's definitely showing you an order of things that's happening following down.
Und deswegen, wenn er in diese Grube geworfen wird, dann markiert das irgendwie einen Test in unserer Zeit. Und natürlich dasselbe Prinzip würde sich auch in der Zukunft wiederholen.
Okay. So everybody could follow along this
Konnte
one.
jeder soweit folgen? Heute
Okay.
Morgen?
Very good. So, but the point is, we can see that basically Joseph, he illustrates the whole movement throughout the whole Sunday law test. Okay.
Und deswegen können wir sehen, wie Josef die ganze Bewegung darstellt durch den Test.
Okay. And once we understand this, we can also then this evening look further at these other prophets and how they are raised up and all these things.
Und sobald wir das verstehen, können wir auch heute Abend dann die anderen Propheten noch anschauen, wie sie aufgerichtet werden und so weiter.
Okay. Amen.
Amen.
Then say we can close for this morning.
Dann können wir hier für heute Morgen abschließen.
And as I said, this evening we continue.
Wie ich gesagt habe, heute Abend setzen wir dann fort.
Let's close with prayer.
Lass uns mit Gebet abschließen.
Dear Heavenly Father,
Lieber himmlischer Vater,
Lord, I want to thank you for these thoughts that you've reminded us about this morning.
ja, ich danke dir für die Gedanken, über die du uns heute Morgen erinnert hast.
I pray that you'll help us to go over all the different illustrations that we've looked at over the past years.
Und ich bete, dass du uns hilfst, dass wir all diese verschiedenen Darstellungen, die wir uns über die vergangenen Jahre angeschaut haben, nochmal durchgehen.
That in light of the midnight cry,
Dass im Lichte des Mitternachtsrufs,
we would see how all these things are all focusing on this thought
dass wir sehen können, wie all diese Dinge auf demselben Gedanken fokussieren,
about giving this last warning message
diese letzte Warnungsbotschaft zu geben
and about the experience we have to go through in order to give it.
und über die Erfahrung, durch die wir durchgehen müssen, damit wir das geben können.
Help us not to try and climb up some other way,
Bitte hilf uns, dass wir nicht versuchen, einen anderen Weg hinaufzuklettern,
but to submit to your will
sondern uns deinen Willen zu unterwerfen,
and remember that we can do nothing of ourselves
dass wir uns daran erinnern, dass wir nichts aus uns selbst tun können
and that we can see that if we remain in our own strength, we will surely perish.
und dass wir sehen können, wenn wir in eigener Kraft bleiben, dann werden wir sicherlich umkommen.
Help us therefore, Lord, and give us grace today,
Hilf uns deswegen, Herr, und gib uns heute Gnade,
and that your will would be done.
dass dein Wille geschehen kann.
And we ask this in the name of Jesus.
Und wir bitten das im Namen Jesu.
Amen.
Amen.